And maybe he is. Uh-oh. I didn't mean to break. Oh, sure enough. Okay, good enough. All right. I call this meeting to order. It is Monday, September 16th. I have 1:34 p.m. We're going to start today. We are very pleased to be joined by Karen Bushell, the clerk of the Circuit Court in Montgomery County, who is here to swear those of us who are here today in as members of the Board of Canvassers for the general election. Kina Anyam, who's not able to be here in person, has already been sworn in. Ami Hober, who's not able to be here in person, will be sworn in before the canvass begins on October 15th. Somewhere in that period before October 15th. I don't mean to say it'll be that day. Okay, without further ado, why don't we all go in Karen's direction, and we'll get sworn in.
In front of the flag.
Everybody will raise their right hand and repeat after me. I'm going to say I, and then we can go down the line. We can each state your name and then continue from there. I am Dylan. Do solemnly swear or affirm.
Do solemnly swear or affirm.
That I will support the Constitution of the United States.
That I will support the Constitution of the United States.
And that I will be faithful and bear true allegiance.
That I will be faithful and bear true allegiance.
To the state of Maryland.
To the state of Maryland.
And support the Constitution and laws thereof.
And support the Constitution and laws thereof.
And that I will.
And that I will.
To the best of my skill and judgment.
To the best of my skill and judgment.
Diligently and faithfully.
Diligently and faithfully.
Without partiality or prejudice.
Without partiality or prejudice.
Execute the office of Board of Canvassers.
Execute the office of Board of Canvassers.
According to the Constitution and laws of this state.
According to the Constitution and laws of this state.
And that I will canvass and declare the votes cast truthfully.
And that I will canvass and declare the votes cast truthfully.
And I will perform all other duties as required by law.
And I will perform all other duties as required by law.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And congratulations. So, David? Nope, no address.
Thank you.
Maybe we'll turn these around if that's okay.
Oh, okay. Excellent idea.
Daniel? Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Everybody have a great afternoon and a productive meeting. And have a great week.
Thank you.
Take care.
And I got this on. Okay, thank you to Karen Bushell for doing that for us. And as I said to her privately, I also want to thank her for taking care of the board members who are not here, because they can come to her office and get sworn in there, which Kina has already done and which Ami will be doing. Okay, so I believe the next thing for us to do is to meet as the Board of Canvassers. There is a quorum present on the Board of Canvassers. I should also add that Ami is online as well. And I believe we have some untimely ballots. So Boris, I turn to you.
Thank you, David. That's correct. There are 40 untimely ballots for the presidential primary election that we are presenting to the board today. 31 of them are domestic mail-in ballots and 9 of them are Yokawa. This slate after the election, it doesn't come as a surprise that all of them were mailed late, all of them were received late. And we would like to ask the board to consider and reject as untimely.
Okay, I'll just point out for those who don't know that Yokawa means that they are from military or overseas voters. Is there a motion?
Yeah, I move we reject the ballots as being untimely.
Okay, is there a second? All right, moved by Diane, seconded by Margie. Any discussion? Okay, I'll just go down along the table here. Alex?
Aye.
Diane?
Aye.
Daniel?
Aye.
Margie? Ami?
Aye.
I cannot hear Ami.
I saw
Ah,
this.
Okay, now I can. That was not you, that was me.
okay, I'm here.
Okay, and I gather you voted aye. And I also vote aye. It is unanimous. Boris, do you have anything else for us as the Board of Canvassers?
That will be all for today.
Okay, so the Board of Canvassers are hereby adjourned, and let's convene the Board of Elections. It is 1:41 p.m. The first order, and a quorum is present, 5 of us in person and 1 by Zoom. I do have a few comments to make this afternoon, and if other board members have anything they want to say, that's obviously possible as well. First, I want to say how horrified I am once again by another assassination attempt on former President Trump, this one at his Florida golf course over the weekend. I'm glad he's okay and that apparently no one was killed or injured. As I've said before, and I think that we would agree, political violence is never acceptable, and our political differences need to be resolved through the electoral process, not through violence. I know all of us on our board will continue to do our part to support the electoral process and the safety of everyone who participates in it. I want to thank Boris and the staff for all of their work in the last 2 months. We didn't meet in August, but our staff has been hard at work while we have not been meeting, including in voter registration, numerous outreach events, reviewing petition signatures for the county referendum concerning term limits for the county executive, reviewing petition signatures for an independent presidential candidate and for the Green Party to get on the Maryland ballot, emails to those who signed up for mail-in ballots to confirm that they wanted to remain on the permanent mail-in ballot list and to confirm that they wanted printed home ballots for those who made that decision. Those are just the headlines. We're going to hear more about what our staff has been doing, but I want to express my appreciation because they've been working very hard while other people may have been on vacation. I'd also like to thank Boris, Ami, and the voter services staff. We had an excellent Zoom meeting on September the 10th with the United States Postal Service postmasters from Montgomery County. We met with about 45 people from the Postal Service. I never realized there were so many postmasters in Montgomery County. And we had a very good discussion about our needs and theirs. In particular, we emphasize the need for us to get legible, unambiguous official postmarks. We, of course, we thank Mr. Vincent for the inspiration behind the magnifying glass and all that, but we hope not to need them too often. We also want to make sure that ballot envelopes are postmarked when they enter the mail stream, and that they get no additional postmarks when they arrive at other post offices along the way, because we've had instances where the postmarks have been added at later post offices, which obviously confuses things quite a bit since we are obligated by law to look at the postmark for when the ballot may have been mailed to us. So anyway, it was an excellent meeting, and I want to thank everyone involved with that, and I want to thank Boris for making sure that we did get that scheduled and had that meeting in plenty of time before the general election. And then I want to thank all of you, my colleagues, for working with me on the mail-in ballot canvass schedule. We'll be publishing those dates soon. We will be starting the canvass on Tuesday, October 15th at 10 a.m. in the Montgomery College Germantown Bioscience Education Center, also known as the same place where we held canvass for the primary. We'll talk more about that later, but I wanted to thank all of you for helping to ensure that we have a quorum at every session. All of us have other obligations of various kinds, and I know that it is a challenge sometimes to coordinate all of our schedules, and I appreciate everybody's assistance with that. Does anyone else have any comments they'd like to make? Okay, seeing none, are there any additions or changes to the agenda? Okay, we are now at disclosure of campaign contributions and attendance at fundraisers. Does anybody have anything they want to report in that category? Okay, I am going to report on an event I am going to later today, although our board attorney told me I don't have to, but I want to let you know anyway. With Kevin's advice and approval, I'm giving a nonpartisan presentation this evening about the options for voter registration, voting, serving as an election judge, and information about counting the ballots at a political fundraiser for Delegate Bonnie Cullison. I am not making a contribution. I am not I'm an invited speaker. I'm really not a guest at the fundraiser. Kevin said he didn't think it was required to be reported because of the nature of these circumstances. She's not on the ballot in 2024. I'm not speaking in support or opposition to any political candidate or issue, but I did want you guys to know, both out of an abundance of caution, if any of you were to hear about that, but also so that to let you know that if you get similar invitations, you should talk to Kevin about whether you can accept those invitations. My view of the situation is that anyone who invites us between now and election day, or maybe even beyond election day, who wants additional information about our work, I think it's a good thing for us to spread the word about our work so that people are not having any misconceptions. So I would be, happy actually if it were happening, to others. Alex, will you be speaking on behalf of the board as a whole? I wasn't planning on speaking on behalf of the board as a whole, other than to the extent that I know I can say, like I did in my opening remarks, that we all believe in nonviolence, but it is literally going to be in the category of when the ballots are being mailed, when the drop boxes will be available, the different options for voting. It's going to be pretty similar to the kinds of information that we're giving out today. There will be no discussions of future legislation, for example. And if there are, I will definitely be punting, because number one, it's only September and the session's a distance from now, and number two, we're a board, and therefore we would have to have that conversation as a board. So yeah, and if it would make you more comfortable, I can make clear that I'm speaking on my own behalf. I certainly was just invited on my own. Anything else on that subject? Okay, then the next thing on our agenda is the election director's report. Boris.
Thank you, David. I will go very briefly through the election director's report, which has been shared with the board members, and it's posted on our website under today's board meeting. We did share minutes the agenda and all the materials timely with the board and the public. In my report, you will see an overview of voter registration statistics. As the custom is, we provide the statistics for as of the last day of the previous month, indicating that there are 59% registered Democrats in the county, 14% Republicans, 25% of unaffiliated, and 2% of others. When it comes to the State Board of Elections, on its session of July 23rd, approved the Montgomery County Board of Elections bylaws. And we did, as it's the practice in the run-up in preparation for elections, we had a tabletop exercise with our colleagues and counterparts throughout the state of Maryland. It was organized by the State Board and the Department of Emergency Management. It's a part of regular security preparation for the upcoming elections. When it comes to personnel, we are part of the county, and county rolled out a new platform for hiring and attracting talent to apply to work with us. Currently, we have an election A2 position up. This is a position that provides us with the temporary team members to take us through election cycle. We are currently interviewing for the deputy director position, and we will have some positions coming up in advertisement. When it comes to the temporary colleagues, the board knows that number of temporary employees peaks around election day, and then it goes down until we hit the general election. It was a bit off this year, if I may say, because we retained a number of temporary team members on staff, knowing that all the petitions were coming in and everything had to be processed within a very strict legal deadline of 20 days. When it comes to budget, I have three things to say. First, I need to apologize because I don't believe that we presented a budget document in the best term. Instead of actual expenditures, we provided the board and the public with the encumbered funds for each budget line. So we will fix that for the next board meeting, because most of the expenditures for this calendar year will be in the first and second quarter, but no, we didn't spend already all the 6 million that we have allocated for the state board of elections. And the last thing is what is not visible at today's budget because of accounting practices for the county. Staff did accumulate a significant number of overtime in the last period. You would recall that we had multiple petitions, as David mentioned, that were coming one after another, extending this 20 days deadline, which created a certain backlog that we had to address before the mail-in ballot season started. Very briefly, in terms of section activities, voter services, as everyone knows, was quite busy, especially voter registration, and our colleagues from vote by mail section that were supporting it with the petitions in the length of the whole summer. Once county question was certified, once we finished with the statewide petition for the Green Party and the RFK, the team was working on the backlog that was created of either new registrants or updates or vote by mail requests that had to be processed. I think that at some point we had almost 63,000 requests in pipeline that we had to deal with. And I can report to the board that we have no backlog when it comes either to voter registration or vote by mail. 60 days, anyone who is on a permanent mail-in ballot list or who requests a mail-in ballot before 60 days deadline from the election day goes out in the first mailing of mail-in ballots. I believe that our number is slightly over 146,000 ballots that will be either web deliveries or they will be in the mail end of this week and next week. We are talking about military overseas and domestic. Deadline for military overseas is 21st, domestic is 23rd of September for the mail to go out. When it comes to IT and training section, logic and accuracy, preparation of the equipment, that is the focus. as we go forward. And when it comes to training election judges, we are looking for election judges to help us run both early voting sites and election day polling places. The board had a conversation sometime around the primary, how we would try to accommodate our returning judges with the altered training sessions for them. Janet maybe can say later if need be more about that, but we have two types of trainings that we are running now. One is more hands-on, self-paced training for those who served in the primary. And the second one is for everyone who is new. So we are trying to accommodate two types of our volunteers who are with us. Classes are being rolled out. Volunteers are signing up. Anyone who is interested to serve, please sign up, and please sign up for in-person training the moment you can. When it comes to the operations section, we have to open space in this facility, and shredding of unvoted ballots from the primary was the one item that was high on our list. We are in a phase where we are preparing the supplies, bags and cards and everything that will be rolled out for early voting sites and election day polling places. And of course, drop boxes are gonna be installed tomorrow in the whole county. They will remain locked until September 20th, when we will open them for the voters to, whoever has a ballot can deposit it.
September 20th being Friday.
That's correct. When it comes to recruitment section, as the name it says it, recruitment of election judges is the priority function. But I have to add a caveat here that our colleagues from recruitment gave a lot of hours to help support all the outreach events that have been taking place lately. And if you would see the calendar of outreach events, you will see that it's full. So we are looking at the recruitment section to support as much as possible with the teams. And I know that voter services is stepping up as well. When it comes to recruitment statistics, I think that I would like to start with two numbers. One of them is that we had, when we pulled the numbers, I think last Wednesday, Janet, for the report, we already had 880 volunteers trained to serve as election judges. And we were a bit under 2,000 of volunteers who signed up for a training from the period of September 12th through October 5th. I believe today we already, if you look at those two numbers, we were 2,850. I think we are close to 3,000 as of today. 6,702 prospective volunteers. These are the people who are in the system, and we hope that they will go through the process, sign up for the training, and eventually serve as election judges. Very briefly, statistics out of those 6,700, majority 4,400 are Democrats. We have 717 Republicans and 1,461 unaffiliated volunteers that expressed interest. Our goal is always to have as diverse team at each polling place in terms of political affiliation as possible, with understanding that we have two chiefs at every polling place and they are never of the same political party. When it comes to meetings and events, the board knows that August 20th was the annual meeting of Mayo, Maryland Association of Election Officials. New Mayo president was elected. That's Erin Perron, who is election director for Carroll County. And just very briefly, as David mentioned, we did meet with the postmasters and post office managers on September 10th, and I will not go in necessarily in more details there. And on September 11th, I was invited to address the board of directors of the Metropolitan Washington Council of Governments. I was there together with my colleagues from DC and Arlington County. The topic or the conversation was focused on preparation for the upcoming elections, and of course, all the security that considerations that go that are part of that preparatory process. So that will be very briefly my report. If the board has questions before we go into the presentation.
Diane,
Yeah, thanks, David. Thank you, Boris. for
Um,
that.
yeah, you may want to,
Oh, am I?
you need to unmute.
Here we go, sorry. Great, okay, thanks, David. Thank you, David. Thank you, Boris. I've had a couple of questions, just pretty simple, about the election judges, and I just lost the statistics, but that doesn't matter. What is the procedure that is used to select, this has to do with the fact that there's a, disparity in Democrats versus Republicans when we try to staff the polling places. What is the process by which the limited number of Republicans available are placed? Is there any specific method determined on where they go? An allotment of target places?
So our messaging has been for a while now. Sign up early, reserve your spot in your home precinct
That's-
or nearby precinct
Yeah.
early as possible.
Okay.
There is no such a thing of like a chess play moving election judges around. Our priority is to accommodate volunteers, and absolute majority of them wants to serve either in their home precinct or a precinct that's nearby their residential address. So that's the logic that's applied by the assigning.
Okay.
If they are late, and if the positions are filled in those locations, we do offer whatever is available for them to consider and serve.
Okay, thank you. As I thought, thank you. That's it?
Okay, Alex, you may want to,
Oh,
turn
yeah,
towards
absolutely.
him.
Great. Thank you, Mr. President. All
All
right. Just had a few questions. Boris, I know you say here that you're currently interviewing candidates for the deputy election director position. Are you confident that we'll have someone in that position by the end of the year?
I cannot answer that question.
Okay. How long has the manager of recruitment position been vacant? Do you know that?
So I think that Chris went retired and kicked in end of June. July 1st, yeah, end of June, July 1st. So it's I cannot go into personnel details in the public setting, but it's taking a position. When we have a vacant position, I see it as an opportunity not to look at the position itself alone, but look towards the needs of the department or the section in like a bigger picture. That kind of consideration requires certain effort to produce different position description, look at the different classes and what the department needs. So it's not, it might be going forward, easy, straightforward hiring for a vacant position, but knowing that we have many positions in this agency that were created, not necessarily this one, but many positions that were created many years ago. And I believe that we all will agree that our needs have changed, the processes have changed, and the tasks, some new maybe have been elevated to more importance. Therefore, we are trying to look at the distribution and assignments as we go forward.
I see. Okay, so I guess what you're saying is maybe the recruitment function will be assigned to someone, but it may not necessarily be its own position, something like that.
We have a manager position, we will have a manager position. It's just a consideration how equally, how to reconsider distribution of other tasks as we go. You all know that we are a small agency. There is no manager who has one task to oversee. Everyone has, primary for Janet is IT, but there are more to that. The same goes for that position as well. And I'll have to just make one comment. I skipped one part unintentionally of the report after Alex's questions.
My only other question was about the nursing homes and assisted living program. Do we make it clear, the people who participate in that they are not or should not be allowed to offer advice or suggestions if residents ask about for whom they should vote?
Absolutely.
All right, that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. David, if I may, I skipped one part
Yes.
of the report.
You just mute that one. Go ahead.
There's our communication efforts. I don't know how I skipped that part. We did it. We repeated the effort we conducted for the primary election. We sent emails to every registered voter who shared email with us. We sent emails to voters who are on a mail-in ballot list, permanent voters who are on web delivery, or anyone else. Our idea was to get out as early as possible and try to invite voters to look at their voter record, make any updates as need be, request mail-in ballot or cancel mail-in ballot if they decide to vote in person. What was good for us to see at the end of the effort, we got the report on to which extent voters actually opened those emails. And I think that the rate was above anyone's expectation, because the email that we sent out to anyone who is on web delivery, listing all the steps they need to take and whether asking them to do it, but to consider if they want to change. We had 71% opening rate on those emails. And we had quite few thousands of voters who follow those after reading the email, following the links that we provided in those emails.
And that's an email that we do that others do not.
As far as I know, we are the only one that are doing this. And that's maybe if the message from the meeting could be also for everyone. Once you update your voter registration, please share your email with us. There is a benefit. There are reminders that are coming from the board. We are simplifying everyone's updates because we give you the links. You just have to follow the links, that are there. And the sample ballot, is going out. I hope that we will have everyone will have all the information necessary in hand when they start receiving their mail-in ballots to incentivize possibly, I hope, early return.
And let me also say that is the earliest that the sample ballot will have gone out, I think, in my time on the board. But obviously it's good to have in people's hands before they vote. Margie, you wanted to say something. You may want to unmute there, and I will mute here. Go ahead.
All right, thank you, Mr. President. I just had a question about the budget, specifically on overtime. So will the all the overtime incurred with the petitions, do you expect that to set us over on overtime hours more than expected? Like, especially now this time of year, I know you can't really predict for how much it would be for elections, but do you think that line item, like, there'll be more expenses than previously expected?
I think that we should stay within the limits that were assigned to us by the county council.
Okay.
So it's petitions were done timely. The backlog had to be addressed as we were getting the legal deadline to process everything. Like sending a vote by mail out without updating someone registration makes no sense. That ballot will bounce back. So we were a bit in a rush. There was also ballot proofing that overlapped at the same time. There are multiple things. We are running pretty detailed forecasting of our overtime hours.
Okay.
We are running it on a sectional level that feeds into like board of elections system. So what we see now, we are within the projections to stay within the funds allocated by the council.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Oh, thank you, Mr. President. Thank you for the report, Boris. Around overseas ballot, if there's anyone that's going to be traveling, what advice, because I know a couple of people who are planning on going maybe on vacation, or students who are going to be studying abroad, what advice do you, I know it's personal, but I have to make sure. What advice do you have for them to be able to cast their vote.
So, if you go to our website, you can go online, you can request mail-in ballot. You will get a list of categories. You will identify yourself as a US citizen abroad with who is coming back. If you have any doubts, or if you are uncertain of anything, 240-777-8550. Please give us a call. There is a whole team. We will guide you through the process. It's the easiest. There is no worries after that. There is no follow-up question. So 240-777-8550.
Is that number available on our website?
It is under the vote by mail section because that's the section where the phone calls should go.
Thank you, Boris.
You're welcome.
In the case of the specific example that you have, Mr. Kuruma, refer that person to me. And I will be happy to give advice on the question, because I think overseas voters are the one category of voters who really should consider the web delivered ballot. Given the difficulties that we have seen over and over again about the amount of time it takes for the ballots to travel back and forth over the ocean, I think that that's something to consider.
Well, thank you, Mr. President, and I know she would listen to you.
Well, I hope so. Okay, so I just wanted to make a suggestion for the board based on the statistics that Boris presented. It appears that we have a large number of people who are in our pool of prospective volunteers to be election judges, but who have not yet either renewed or completed their application or completed their training or signed up for training. So in other words, they may need a little bit of an extra communication in order to encourage them that this is a good time for them to do that. I was going to suggest, if the board is amenable, that we have a letter from all the board members. And I would be happy to draft it in such a way that hopefully everyone can sign, that will say something along the lines of, we understand that you may be interested. The sooner that you sign up, you get a greater choice of when your training is, you get a greater choice of where you serve as an election judge. I think those are the main points, but I just wanted to get a sense as to how people would feel about that. I'm sure that our staff is already reaching out to people on a regular basis. I'm just trying to add something additional to get people's attention.
Yeah.
I see Diane nodded her
Yeah,
head.
I would sign on to that.
Okay, I see a lot of head
Any
nods.
encouragement?
Okay.
Yeah, Mr. President.
Okay, excellent. All right, I will work on drafting something that we can do soon, and I thank you. I thank you for that. Diane, you said you had another question.
Yeah, it was quick, and I don't know if this is unfair to ask, but in your voter communications efforts, when you reported that over 410,000 emails. Okay, never mind. I had a question about the percentage of mail-in ballots that were processed in the primary versus how many were sent out. And I know primaries are different than generals, but is it unfair to ask you generally?
No, it's not. I think that we spoke many times that voting patterns have changed, and I think that the voters are still settling what's their preferred voting method as we go forward. Both 2022 primary and 2024 primary we saw a rather low return rate of requested mail-in ballots. If my memory serves me well, for this primary, it was 62% of the ballots requested that were sent back to us.
Okay,
Explanations are there. It's a primary. We have a lot of voters who focus on a general election, plus many unaffiliated voters who request the mail-in ballot were not necessarily seeing voting through in the primary. When it comes to the general election, if the pattern holds, we should see anywhere between 80 and 85% return rate of mail-in ballot.
okay.
That was for the 2022. Again, no crystal ball here. We are just looking at. we are around 150,000 ballots requested so far. So if the pattern will hold, we are looking about canvassing around 120, 125,000
Okay,
ballots minimum. That's with the assumption that we do not get any vote by mail ballots request from now until the election day.
Yeah.
And I can tell you right now, that's not happening, because I look Saturday what came, Sunday and Monday, we got around 2,500 over those 2 days.
okay.
So
I took some heat at a recent event for describing our voters as procrastinators because it was apparently considered a pejorative. I, of course, include myself in that pejorative. But I do think that you're right, that we will get more, we don't know how many, we will get more, requests and we should definitely be ready for that.
Absolutely. I think when we send them emails out, we went from maybe 300, 250, 300 requests a day to 1,100.
Wow.
And the question here is, those are the voters who have requested that mail-in ballot eventually. And I think it works for everyone's benefit to get those requests as soon as possible. We have more time to process them. They get their ballots earlier. There is no backlog on anyone's end as we go forward.
Okay, if there are no other questions, oh, Alex, go ahead.
Listen, I neglected to ask one question about the budget. Boris, I noticed under 60446 software licensure maintenance agreements, we had budgeted 0, but either spent or encumbered is 126,000. Can you tell us what that is for? And should we have budgeted some money for that line item back in the spring?
So we have money. This is one of those that budget lines are not aligned with the budget expenditure. So we put it out there so everyone can see, because there's nothing to hide. We need licenses for many parts of software that we utilize for administrative purposes. We are talking about licenses from a system that we use to communicate with our election judges, to smart sheets that we are using, even to Adobe to work on PDF documents. So there's a lot of software licenses that are renewed on an annual basis, and we have to come up with a line item that would capture all of them at once, because currently it's not the case. But as I said, we put it out there so it's visible that this is the cost that we have on an annual basis.
Do you think in the future we should budget some money or put a number in that line item for the county council to?
Money is there.
Yeah.
It's just let me put it this way. Money is there for the majority of the licenses. What we are still determining the overall cost that will be going forward is that the replacement system for election judges management is still underdeveloped. So any development as it goes forward, depending on the aspect that is incorporated in the system, might require licenses. So once everything is wrapped up, we should have a really good picture what will be the overall cost. But if our total number for licenses is not enough, I believe that board will see a request from the staff to support us in getting an enhancement to finance that aspect of our work.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, if there are no further questions on the director's report, Boris, do you want to go to your presentation? There is an item on the agenda that says meetings and events. I'm not sure what that is, but in any event. Yeah. We're having some technical issues with the presentation, so
I'm trying to find it. Thank you. No, I'm sure. Bring it up first, I'm gonna share it.
there we go.
Is up?
No,
It is up over there.
No, it's on Boris's. You do need to go to slideshow.
There.
And you need to unmute. Although at the moment, there you go.
Yeah, I think I proved once again that I'm not to be trusted with sharing screens on Zoom, so.
Good thing you have Janet next to you.
Absolutely. I think that we prepared and delivered a similar presentation in the run-up to the 2024 primary election. This presentation is on the same structure, follows the information we provided for the primary election, and we just want to reinforce and show the dates and the data for the general election as we are getting close to them. And Janet. We will just go very briefly through what we are doing to prepare for the elections, what were the changes that we are introducing for the general election compared to the primary, share some available data, and of course, always seek a joint efforts with everyone who is engaged in the election process. The structure, very briefly, key dates, registration, vote by mail, early vote, election day, and of course, our volunteers, election workers on the end. When it comes to the key dates, I think David already mentioned that we will start early canvass on October 15, same location, same times. October 15 is also advanced deadline to register or update your voter registration for this election. Even once we pass the deadline, there are still options for anyone to go through the same day registration process during early voting or election day. Early voting will start on October 24. Thursday will run through following Thursday, October 31st. There are no changes when it comes to the number of early voting sites or locations of early voting sites. Election day, November 5th. There is one change. I'll get to that in the course of the presentation. And we also included in this presentation the list of key dates is the final deadline to receive timely postmarked mail-in ballot, which is second Friday after the election day, 10 a.m. That's the deadline for the board to receive timely postmarked mail-in ballot to go to canvass it. Voter registration monthly statistics. This is for everyone to see. Monthly statistics for every month available on our website. We'll get to the link for anyone interested to see how voter registration goes from one month to another. The same slide indicates distribution of voter registration among per party affiliation, as I indicated in my report. And now we get to the voter registration services. Voter registration services that we provide to anyone in this county. We register new voters, we are updating voter registration record, and we do something that is widely called list maintenance. Basically, adding everything encompasses list, term encompasses everything. Adding voters to the rolls, adding changes to their records on the rolls, removing people from the rolls for whatever reasons could be. Voter registration also provides training for voter registers. Anyone who is interested to go out and try to register more voters, we try to work with them to take them through the instructions, to take them through the application itself, because we believe the better product we get back, it's easier to complete voter registration. There are less errors. There is less follow-up communication to clarify, is this J or age or something like as simple as that. Voter registration does petition processing, as we already spoke about, and of course, provisional ballots. Customer service in our building is provided by Voter Services, and every of these boxes, if it's blue, you will see that it has a link. You can go further and dig deeper, find more information. And one of the good places to start is voter registration frequently asked questions. Key products, of course, monthly statistics. All the links are embedded in the presentation itself. You can see them. County-wide voter registration data could be requested. We provided voter registry for individual voters, or how to become a voter registrar. When it comes to the options for voters, something that we are advertising all the time, please go to our website or utilize the texting options that we have on disposal to our voters. For example, to register to vote, you can go to our website, you can follow this link, or you can just text the word vote to 77788. For to check your voter registration and consider whether you need to update anything, you can go through the voter lookup or text the word check to 77788. So even canceling voter registration, there is a link for anyone who moved, changed their mind, or doesn't want to be a registered voter anymore. Please follow this link. It will be processed by our team. Same day registration remains as an option for everyone in the course of early voting and election day. Key messages, they are the same as they were for the primary. Promote voter registration, promote timely, promote updating records as quickly as possible to have our roles as accurate as possible. Please share your email with us if you would like to be part of our communication efforts, because we do send out updates to everyone on our list. Potential benefits for everyone involved in this process is better voting experience. If your record is up to date, that will be reflected either if you vote in person, it will be a smooth process. If you request mail-in ballot, the ballot will not be returned as undeliverable. Then we will not need to issue a next one, which will take another amount of time. So we are trying to make it simpler and faster for everyone. Updated records also generate less provisional ballots, which I believe is helpful for the overall process. When it comes to vote by mail, we can talk about options to request vote by mail, deadlines, how to return, current request, party breakdown of the request, and of course, canvas as the phase of that overall process. Requesting a mail-in ballot, it's easy by texting option, by visiting our website, by following the link in this presentation, by sending an email, calling us, or visiting our office. All the options are available to everyone who would like to vote by mail in the upcoming election. Deadlines, we are still far out, but deadlines have to be, I believe, repeated frequently. October 29th for everyone who would like to vote by mail, and that ballot to be delivered via mail or fax. Friday, November 1st is for the web delivery. And of course, Tuesday, November 5th is for those who come here to this office and do it in person. This slide indicates the dates and the times and the options that people have to keep in mind if they are considering voting by mail. Yes. Sorry.
Go ahead. For us, that third deadline of November 5. The person would need to do something with the ballot that same day, would they not, to return?
That's correct. So if you are a voter,
Okay. All right, go ahead.
If you are a voter who, for whatever reason, decided on election day that you would like to vote by mail, you can come to our office. We will give you an application. We will process that application for vote by mail ballot on the spot, and you will be issued a ballot. For those voters and for those ballots, return deadlines are still the same, 8 p.m. election day. You can take grab a chair in our front area, vote your ballot, and drop it in the drop box outside of our main office. You can take it home and drop it in the drop box next to your house, or not do anything with it. But we provide an option. It's on the voters how to utilize it. Deadlines does not change.
Thank you.
Returning voted mail-in ballots. This slide indicates 8 p.m. Tuesday. We have 58 official election drop boxes throughout the county. Everyone who would like to find the location of the drop box, again, can use the texting option. Text the word box plus the zip code where they are to 77788, and they will get the location of nearby drop boxes where they can deposit their mail-in ballots. U.S. Postal Service is of course always an option, or to bring it to our office. We provide the link for voters who would like to track where their ballot is in the process. But at the same time, if you are a mail-in voter and you signed up via email or text, you'll get messaging from the state Board of Elections when your ballot isn't getting to you, when your ballot was received here, when your ballot was canvassed. So there are increased messaging. If you look back to 2020 in particular, where both us and the state is introducing to help communicate with the voters. When it comes to drop boxes, as I said, 58 are still available as in the primary. There's one change. Northwood High School drop box was relocated to Forest Knolls Elementary School. We are literally talking about across the street, more or less.
Around the corner.
Yeah, round the corner relocation. It was relocated as Northwood High is going into demolition and reconstruction. I would say that would be the term. So it's a number of drop boxes stays the same, location is the same, neighborhood, but functioning open school, not necessarily a construction site. Drop boxes will be installed, as I said, tomorrow. We open them on 20th of September. They will remain open until 8 p.m. on election day. We will do daily pickups at least once a day. And then when we hit early voting, we'll go twice a day picking up. If we are fortunate to have a high influx of ballots early, we don't have problem going more often if need be. All the drop boxes, we continue the established practice. Everything is under video surveillance 24/7. And our teams that are going out, bipartisan teams on each single location. Pace of return of mail-in ballots. I know I said it so many times. I shared this screen with everyone, and I'll keep sharing it because I think it's something that we need to talk about. Primary 2022 and general 2022. We could literally cut, copy, paste these charts, which indicate number of mail-in ballots returned through the drop boxes. I take just drop boxes because it's easier of the very detailed count that we have here. There's always a spike in the last week, and there's in 2022, we had 12,000 people who returned their mail-in ballots on election day. I will not ever rush anyone to make their mind and vote their ballot. However, if you already voted your ballot, you put it in the envelope, you signed the oath, and you seal the envelope, please don't keep it in the car, don't leave it on the kitchen counter, just drop it in the drop box, let us have it. So we can process it, we can send it through the canvas, that the result can be reported on the election. Operationally, I think if you look 12,000 ballots in one day, it's a lot. It's a lot. But also we can take care of it. What we cannot take care of that day is, I believe one election we had almost 3,500 web deliveries that we received on that day. That means that vote by mail team was locked in for days to prepare labels for those ballots, to allocate them, to segregate in the proper precinct and the ballot style, and prepare them in the batches that could go to chemists. And only then we couldn't open them with our letter openers automatic. They had to be hand opened, right? But by our bipartisan teams, removed, duplicated, reviewed the duplication, and only then packed as a pair in the whole batch, and only then sent to chemists. So I will never say that we will not be able to address 10,000 ballots that they come in. But if 4,000 of them are web deliveries, yeah, we need some time.
Boris, the very shape of these graphs suggests that our board president was unjustly accused when he raised this issue.
Yeah, if you would just try to memorize these two slides, and I'll show you the primary 2024. If this is, which comes as no surprise, it's all that identical. So we have 3 elections in a row that the number is the same. The only difference is in 2022, it was around 12,000 both primary and general. In 2024, it was 10,000 on election day because it was lower turnout overall. So big question mark for the general election. We ask anyone, again, we will never ask you to rush, to make up your mind. But if you made up your mind, if you voted your ballot, just go through the process, seal it, sign it, deliver it to us.
Quick comment.
Go ahead, Tom.
I just want to make a really quick comment. Should I turn? Okay, just a really quick comment, just to amplify what you said about the scenario with the number of web delivery ballots that are received near election day and the time processing that is required, that just in advance of what sometimes is concern, maybe criticism, I don't want to say that, by some public who wonder why it takes so long to get a vote tally after an election. Just if everyone could hear what you just said, it might explain why it is a quandary or a conundrum that we are trapped in. And kudos to our staff for doing as expeditiously as possible what they do.
I'll just add a comment to that, which is that I think the reason why it takes us a long time to count ballots is I think that the web delivered ballot is a portion, but it's a small portion. I think the shape of the curve is a much larger portion. And to the extent that people do take the advice that if you have completed your ballot to send it back, that will make it easier. I would also note that the general election chart that Boris had, can you go back, Boris, for a moment? The 2022 general election, you will see that the pickup in the number of ballots submitted was a little bit higher than in the primaries, which might suggest, as I would surmise, that general election voters are somewhat more likely to know how they're going to vote earlier than primary election voters, because many of the general election voters are voting for a particular political party. So I'm going to hope that 2024, that pattern, again, for those who are ready to vote, but I'm going to hope that that pattern continues. If you are a voter who you've already decided how you're voting on the candidates, you've decided how you're voting on the nonpartisan candidates, you've decided how you're voting on the referenda, and you're basically ready to vote, as Boris said, no reason to hang on to your ballot in your car, in your house, etc. We have 58 drop boxes, including at almost every high school, all of the early voting locations, and a number of other locations. And if you don't want to use the drop boxes, there are, post offices across Montgomery County. So, thank you. Go ahead.
Sorry. Good. Yeah. Thank you for understanding basically what the team is going through. So when it comes to the mail-in ballot requests, I think that I would say the pattern, the numbers hold. The Democrats have a larger majority of mail-in ballot requests than voter registration would indicate. So there are 71% of requests came from the registered Democrats, 11% from Republicans, and 18% from unaffiliated voters. Again, few links to share with everyone. Mail-in voting, frequently asked questions. Few options that interested parties could sign up to receive. People who have requested, voters who have requested mail-in ballots, voters who are on the permanent mail-in ballot list, those that were sent and returned. There's always a clear data file on the state, and we can provide any campaign that's interested the list of voters who actually returned their mail-in ballots to us. So that list is also available going forward. When it comes to Canvas, again, October 15th, 10 a.m. We all know where we'll be, where we will be. Same location as David said. We will continue doing what we did before. Our website will have a link, and anyone will be able to observe Canvas through the live streaming that we will provide. Everyone is invited, and of course, schedule will be available on our website. When it comes to schedule, you can see many scheduled days here, and they are presented in two different colors. One, everything that's red, it's legally required meeting of Board of Canvassers. So it's first day of Canvass, first Thursday after the election, to second Wednesday when the board has to meet for the to canvass provisionals, and second Friday, which marks the deadline when the timely postmarked mail-in ballots could be received. The other days that I added to this calendar is what the Board of Canvassers and staff would like to have as an option in case we have sufficient number of ballots received so we can go into canvass. Of course, if there are no sufficient ballots to canvass, we will apply the same approach that we applied in the primary. We would rather, especially before the election day, cancel scheduled canvass and move it to the next date on the calendar, when we can have a more fuller day of canvassing and also give more time to the staff to prepare.
So kind of in consideration of the chart you previously showed us, how much has the number of days required grown since the mail-in ballots have significantly increased? Like if you have like a ballpark.
50%.
Yeah. Someone is. I need to go back and look at that. But there's we all have to be very cautious when we are comparing these dates. I'll give you two good reasons. Number one, vote by mail is up, right? Web delivery and are up. The number of web delivery ballots is up, and the return rate matters, and especially dates when they are coming back. If we get them early, we can push them early through canvas. We will need less canvas days. If they come late, we are sending them out as we process them, not to keep anything waiting. So this is the second thing is something that's absolutely outside of our control. Everyone who had been to canvas, and board members will be very familiar with this. there's a huge difference duplicating one card ballot or multiple card ballots. If we have one card front and back, we move faster. If you have multiple pages of the ballots, everything will get slower. Canvassers need more space on the table, takes more time to get properly organized. We don't want anything to be mixed. So there are some factors that we can forecast, some things we cannot.
I have just one follow-up to that. So would you say the increase in the number of days is tied more to web delivery than the significant amount of mail-in ballots that have increased?
Can I ask that we hold that question for another time? Because we do have a bunch of people we've invited to this meeting
Okay, yeah, no
about this
problem.
election. And I would be happy to give you my perspective on the number of canvas dates, but there are always more than we think is the short answer that I would give. But if it's okay with you, Margie, we invited people to come, and I want to get through Boris's presentation so that we can give them an opportunity to ask their questions, and the canvas dates we can talk about later. Thank you.
Okay. Key messages when it comes to mail-in voting. We believe, again, we might be biased because we do this daily for living, that requesting a mail-in ballot is easy. And I believe that 150,000 people who did it have proved that it's really easy to request mail-in ballot. We also try to indicate to everyone web delivery is an option, but we would like to share with everyone what those steps are. That's why we send those emails. That's why when you apply for web delivery, you will have to see those steps listed as well. Again, message is, please give us your ballot as early as possible. The moment you vote your ballot, we will not never ask anyone to do it without proper consideration. And of course, just like we need election judges for election early voting and election day, we are always looking for canvassers because we still need to have bipartisan teams. Whenever we do it, we run big canvas. We run canvas with 50 teams, which is 100 people in one room, in one goal, to do as much as possible in a short period of time. When it comes to early voting centers, as I said, I'll just very briefly, everything stays the same as for the primary. Same locations, same hours, October 23rd to October 31st, 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. Please, first day, first 2 hours, last day, last 2 hours, always busiest. Weekends are low, 10 to 3, turnout is low. So you can go to our website, check out the wait times, plan your voting experience properly. When it comes to polling places, number of precincts stays the same, number of polling places stays the same as the primary. There is one only change when it comes to the polling places. These links that we provide here is a precinct maps, list of polling places, and the location of precincts within the congressional districts. The only change between the primary in general is a precinct 0514. It used to be John Lilac Elementary School. That school is also going into construction. So the new polling place is St. Camillus Church Parish Life and Education Center that is literally across the street. So we try to stay as close to the previous location as possible. If there were changes to your polling place location, every voter gets voter notification card. Polling place will be listed on everyone's sample ballot on the last page. There are signs that we place at the old polling places for people who might have missed it. And of course, one of the new things that we rolled out in the primary, when you go to a polling place, you will see maps of the precincts that vote in that polling place. So you'll see the boundaries, you'll find your street. If your street is within those your boundaries, that's your polling place. Again, messaging to voters, your polling place location is listed on the back of your sample ballot. We always encourage everyone to consider that. If you go outside of your home polling place, you will end up voting provisional ballot. If you don't get sample ballot or lost it or anything, you can always text the word check to 77788 to confirm your polling place. You can go through the web link, voter lookup. You can call us. We'll be more than happy to provide that information because it will affect your voting experience. It will affect what we need to do in terms of planning going forward for the polling places. When it comes to non-electioneering, nothing has changed compared to the primaries. It's still 25 feet. The signs are posted both in front of the early voting centers and polling places. The signs are posted on the drop boxes indicating the non-electioneering zone there. We on our website provide the photos of the polling place locations and non-electioneering zones that are set for those polling places. Links are provided in the presentation itself. When it comes to concerns that we might have, this slide literally, in a way, summarizes the letter that the board sent to every campaign and candidate that will be on the ballot, reminding everyone about non-electioneering zone, the fact that all the campaigns or candidates will have supporters who will campaign outside of the voting areas, but the storage to leave overnight the materials that they might use, it's not available everywhere. It's limited. It's a first come, first served basis in some facilities. And facilities, of course, cannot assume liability for any damages to your posters, or I think some people even try to leave chairs and tables inside. We received certain concerns were shared with us in the previous cycles that campaign support staff spends a lot of time on the green areas around the county facilities or any other facility that's used as an early voting center or election day. Someone has to maintain that. Green areas are pleasant for the eyes, and they are benefit for the whole community. There was a situation where someone showed up with a shovel and 4x4 piece of wood to place a sign. Please don't. If that could be the very short message that we can share, just don't, because someone has to, again, go after, invest money to repair that green area. We are inviting everyone to be mindful of our neighbors, our friends, our voters who need certain accommodation in order to vote in person, particularly parking. So ADA designated parking in front of the polling places, the early voting sites. Please leave those spots available. Do not place campaign signs around those spots. Let's accommodate our voters as much as we can. How do we do assessment? Comment cards will still be available at the polling places. We rolled out the QR codes for the primary election. They were accepted in some polling places more than the other, but nothing for that will stop us not to roll them out again. QR codes, scan the code, answer the questions, same questions that are on the comment card. It's fast for the voter. It's fast for us because we more or less get the feedback instantaneously. Election workers, as I said, we need our volunteers for election, early voting, election day, Dropbox attendance, nursing home program, canvas, anything that is part of the process. We are always looking for bipartisan teams. That's a standard that's required. That's the standard that we meet. Of course, a higher number of voters of party affiliations that are not democratic would help us to speed up pairing. Let's put this way. So, message for everyone is to encourage volunteering in the election process, and that will be presentation for today.
Okay, thank you, Boris. I am going to first ask, I know we only have one person here who is a member of the public who doesn't work for us. But if you have any questions, Feel free to ask them, because I did say I was going to give priority to people who were here in person. If staff has any questions, I'm fine with that too. And then we'll go to people who are online. If you are online and you have a question, please raise your electronic hand at the bottom of the screen where it allows you, where it says raise hand, and that will be our signal that you have a question. Jennifer, do you have a question?
First, just in general, or Jennifer Hosey from the Democratic Central Committee, will this full presentation be available to the public or just upon request?
The full presentation in terms of Boris's slides is already available to the public on the meeting page for today's meeting.
All right.
And the video of this particular meeting will be available online within the next few days. I don't remember exactly how long it takes us, but not very long.
All right, and I know both the members and a lot of the staff, so I'll follow up if necessary.
Yeah, okay. Okay, anything else, Jennifer?
No, that's it.
Okay. Any was Alex's question hearable by people? Because I was apparently muted. So let's repeat it. Alex has asked a question about the League of Women Voters program for assessing polling places, which I know is a long-standing feature of Montgomery County elections, but Boris, why don't you go ahead and explain that?
So it's a long feature of the elections in Montgomery County. It's also a requirement. And I would say that Montgomery County possibly does something, again, different than other counties. There's a certain percentage of the polling places that should be evaluated by external partner, in this case, League of Women Voters, to meet to enable every polling place performance to be assessed in the 2 cycles system. We do all the polling places all the time. We go beyond what is required. The idea is that League of Women Voters is established agency, organization in the county, in the state, nationally. They find their own volunteers. They go through the trainings. We answer all the questions. They go out with a pre-prepared questionnaire that's approved by the state administrator, and they provide comments of their observations in the course of the election day. So it's valuable. We look at those comments because our team is not that big. We cannot be present at every polling place every day, but any feedback on setup, on experience of voters that as they observe it, performance of the election judges, anything that we can use to improve, to do better, we use it. One of the observations from the presentation itself, for example, making sure that there's sufficient number of ADA parking spots is high on the list of League of Women Voters every time when they go out. Because they see it from the perspective of a voter. If I'm coming to a polling place, what do I need? And that's very valuable for us because we can pick up the information, try to improve it for the next election.
Do you know how many polling places they evaluate?
Maybe do you remember from the top of your head?
The goal is for them to hit every single polling place.
I think we had like only a handful that we did.
There was a handful, I think there was maybe 8 or 9 that were not hit during the primary due to illness and things like that. Last minute people dropped out.
Again, we are literally going beyond the legal requirement. And again, it's not that to make us look good, we benefit from it. So if there are parking issues with ADA parking issues, today, we don't want to learn about that in 2026, which means that that parking issue will be repeated until someone goes there. So we do it bigger scale because we do try to do improvements across the board whenever it's possible. It's not something that I introduced, that's the practice of Montgomery County. That's how the Montgomery County does.
I'm going to call on Daniel in a moment, but since Boris mentioned the word parking about 5 times in that sentence, he reminded me of something, which is that our concern is not only with ADA parking. Our concern is with parking for voters in general. And one of our asks of our candidates' campaigns and political parties is for their campaign workers to leave some of the more desirable parking spaces close to the entrances for voters, so that we have voters for whom getting to the front door is challenging, but they're not necessarily in ADA parking. We want to make sure that they have the opportunity to find parking if at all possible. So I just wanted to reiterate that. And Daniel, your turn.
Thank you, Mr. President, and thank you, Boris. I mean, so just to make sure I understand, the League of Women Voters program, is that like a inspection of the polling places, or are they part of the election observers? And if the election observers, how do you handle election observers? How do we handle election observers on the election day itself? So there are two part of the question. I want to make sure that we get clarification on.
If you don't mind, I would like to stay away from the word inspection.
Okay. Okay.
Because League of Women Voter, most of those who go out and assess, because that's literally what they assess the polling places, they at some point, or they still serve as our election judges as well.
Okay.
So many members of League of Women Voters have been election judges, or they will be election judges. Some of them may be election judges during early voting, and then they do assessment of the polling places. So it's assessment. It's like a honest look. You know, if I see it from the voters' point of view,
sure,
what I would change to make this experience.
In other words, they have a checklist that they go.
Exactly.
Okay.
They have a checklist. They go through that list to try to provide very structured feedback, because then we can compare. Do we have a problem across the board, or we have a sporadic situations?
It's done before election day, or is done on election day?
It's done on the election day.
So do we get immediate feedback if they find something?
There are two aspects of that. One is the report. One is the questionnaire. We will get to it sometime after the election, because the second thing, if they see something on the spot, they can communicate either with the chief judges or communicate with us here. So
Perfect.
we make a difference between something that's urgent,
sure,
and something that would be better.
Perfect.
And sometimes they might note some things that cannot be that easily, right? The flow of polling place sometimes is dictated by the location of the sockets.
Yes, sir.
So we can go into wishful thinking, but sockets are there, which means scanner has to be there. Bob has to be there. So we are trying to look at all of these things. Observers are part of the election process.
So do they register with an organization, or how do we, like, how do you handle election observers?
Observers, there's a process. They usually go through the state.
Okay.
They get the accreditation. I know that we just Gilberto is working with the International Foundation of Election Systems or something like that. I forgot. It's literally, it's a state, it's a nation, worldwide agency that brings together election officials from different countries.
Okay.
And they tend to send their observers to different locations in different jurisdictions.
Are they trained before coming to understand processes that we do? That you don't know. Okay.
That's on that.
Okay.
It's I know that my former place where I used to work, OAC, they send out their observers to US, just like US sends their own observers And I think I met some of my former colleagues when I was judge at Friendship Heights of all the
Okay.
places that will be. So you have domestic, like local, you have international, but there's a process. So election process is open. And the observers, look, sorry.
Are you done, Dan?
I'm done.
Okay. I was going to make a clarifying point, but I also wanted to ask Jerry to promote Anna Cork, who has her hand up and is in our audience at the moment. The point that I was going to make is that we have observers of various different types, because we have poll watchers who are designated by the parties or the campaigns, and there are very specific rules, usually created by state law or regulation, as to what they can and cannot do inside of our polling places, but they are also able to be inside of our polling places. We have the kind of international observers and others, and we've had those for as long as I've been on the board, longer than I've been on the board, as well. The League of Women Voters are actually doing their work for us. And that's a little bit different than these other entities that are doing the work for themselves. Each is a little bit different, but the League of Women Voters is going to have pretty wide access, because they are, they're doing it for us. So anyway, okay. Ms. Cork, why don't you please go ahead with your question? And Boris, why don't you take down your presentation so we can see everybody? Stop sharing, I guess, is what I'm saying.
Hi, my name is
And Ms.
Anna.
Cork, if you are comfortable with turning on your camera, that would be great. If not, that's fine too.
Yeah, unfortunately, I'm not on a device that really lets me turn on my camera. So I apologize for that.
Oh, you know what? Okay, go ahead. I'm sorry. Please repeat whatever you just said.
Oh, that's fine. I apologize. I'm not on a device that actually lets me turn on my camera right now.
Okay, that's
But
fine.
hopefully you can hear me. My name is Anna. I work on an election, and I just had a quick question about signs at polling places. We talked a little bit about where they could be placed, but we wanted to check in and see about timing for early voting, most specifically when we can put up the signs, whether they can stay overnight during early voting, and then if the same time restraints apply for election day.
Let me give that one a try, and then I think if I have it wrong, someone can correct me.
Thank you.
I believe under state law, you are allowed to put up signs starting at 5 o'clock the day before either early voting or election day. They can, under the terms of our agreements with the early voting site, stay up overnight. They cannot stay on early voting sites past noon on the day after early voting. For example, if you wanted to keep them there until election day, that is not permitted. And I believe the state law would require you to remove your signs by 8 o'clock on the day after election day, but we are much nicer, especially since a number of us have been through campaigns and realized that 8 a.m. the day after election day might not be the easiest thing to accomplish. So we say that you have until noon. I will say that you will make the hosts of early voting or of election day voting much happier the sooner you take down your signs. And I would also just point out that a number of our polling locations, not for early voting, but for election day, are private facilities. Some of these private facilities may not necessarily agree with all of the political signs that are on their property, but they do it because they're doing it as a public service, because that's part of the process of being a polling place. But again, the sooner that you take down your signs, that the happier everyone will be. I routinely get texts, phone calls, etc., as soon as early voting is over, asking me why are there still signs up at X or Y location. it is technically not our job to go and take down all the signs, but we will do so if we need to. Boris, please go ahead.
I just need to make a small, very brief remark about every sign or the signs at the MCPS locations. Just an appeal as a father that kids will be coming to school, signs will be around, and the school staff has a tendency, rightly so, to remove the signs that are in any way considered to be between the on the kids' way to enter the school. So, as David said, we do try to work with every location to give until noon for the signs to be removed. But if you're putting signs in some schools and you don't find them in the morning, I believe it's the school staff who considered the option that signs might be in the way of kids' movement, and therefore they were either put on the side or moved away. So,
and I do think that a number of our hosts of voting would definitely be happier the sooner the signs are taken down. We just know that it's not always realistic to expect everyone to wake up at the crack of dawn the day after the election to do that. But it would definitely be a real plus for anyone who does that. Anna, do you have any follow-up questions?
No, that's it. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I said, nope, that's it. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Okay, thank you. Is there anyone else with, let me see if there's any other hands up. Sarah Brown and Sheldon Fishman have their hands up. So Jerry, if you can make them into panelists, that would be great. And I do not know who was first, so I'm going to call on Ms. Brown first. Please, and Ms. Cork can go back to being an attendee. And Ms. Brown, please go ahead with your question.
Good afternoon, sir. Can you hear me all right?
Yep, we can hear you just fine.
Very good. I have a compliment and a suggestion. Which do you want first?
That's up to you.
Okay, let's say
or
that
after.
I think that the as a person volunteering to work the polls, officer, I am very pleased with the way it has progressed this year, as far as letting us know what to do, where to go, and all that stuff. And it's been very flexible. And to that degree, I really want to say that I'm very pleased with that. The suggestion would be, I would have loved to have been a chief judge this year. And I actually applied for the training, and I looked at my calendar, and as things evolved in my personal life, it just got to the point where I cannot do that much work and do diligence to that kind of a position. So I'm going to remain as a provisional judge for right now. And then next year I'll be a chief judge if they'll take me. What I'd like to suggest, though, is that we have off cycle or in between training for chief judges. I would have loved to have taken the training as a kind of a not for credit kind of thing, where I sat through the training to see how to do it. I understand how difficult it is because I've watched chief judges for 3 cycles now. So it's just a suggestion that if you have the people that are willing to do it, and you want to get a class together between elections to just go over all the perspectives of what a person needs to think about, do, and all that sort of thing, that would be fantastic. Because I know that would have made my chances of being a chief judge this year a lot better than all of a sudden realizing what would have been required and not being able to do the job. That's the only thing I've had. So thank you very much. I really appreciate it.
Okay, and thank you for your suggestion. Given that it's a suggestion for next year, I'm gonna take it under advisement rather than try to address it now. But I'm very focused on this year first. But I do appreciate the suggestion and I appreciate the compliment. Thank you so much. Okay, Sheldon.
Yes, I have just one quick comment. My name is Sheldon Fishman, and have been a long time precinct chair. And my comment is, thank you for making it so easy to register. Thank you for making it so easy to vote. Thank you for the transparency on the counting of the ballots. And I congratulate you on the enhancements for this election. You built on a strong base and made it even better. Thank you very much. The things that you did this year increase the trust in what you're doing and the trust in the election process. Bless you.
Well, thank you, Sheldon. You can come talk to us anytime you'd like. Go ahead, Daniel.
Well, as a longtime friend of Sheldon, I just wanted to thank you, Sheldon, Sheldon is one of the people who actually inspired me to get involved locally. So thank you for the work that you've been doing. And you continue to inspire many of us. So thank you for joining us today.
I am not going to compete with Mr. Karoma on how long I've known you, Sheldon, but I do remember when you were a candidate for office. Anyway, I appreciate very much your continued interest in our activities, and thank you for all of that excellent and positive feedback. Very much appreciated. Do we have anyone else who has a question? I don't see anyone else with their hand up, so we can move on with our agenda. And I believe that the next thing on the agenda is our public comment period. That period was questions about the presentation. Now we're taking comments about basically any subject that people want to bring up. And I know that we had one person sign up in advance. That's Michael Fletcher. If we could promote him to be a panelist, we'll give him a chance to speak with us.
Okay, I am here now.
Okay, we see a black screen.
I'm trying to get my camera.
There you are. Okay, so are you actually out in the garden, or is that just your backdrop there?
That's my backyard a few months ago when things were blooming.
It's beautiful, and thank you for that. So please proceed.
Yes, sir, Mr. President. In my comments to the board at the June meeting, I expressed concern that non-citizens may be voting in the upcoming federal election. The non-citizens will be applying for social benefits and driver's licenses at Maryland agencies that are also intake points for voter registration. The personnel in these agencies are supposed to ensure the persons filing for registration meet the requirements to register, including being a U.S. citizen. The Help America Vote Act requires states to verify the information of newly registered voters for federal elections. At the June meeting, the discussion of this concern concluded that the signing of the voter application under penalty of perjury was sufficient for verification of citizenship. However, with the large numbers of non-citizens applying for services, I'm concerned that corners may be cut and non-citizens may end up on the Maryland registration list. Recent data available from the Social Security Administration underscores this concern. I refer to the Social Security Administration website that provides Help America Vote verification transactions by state. Maryland has had a dramatic increase in these transactions in recent months. The table below reflects this. The table shows that in 2023, there were 18,000 transactions, 35% of which were non-matches. Now, non-matches are a problem because they represent numbers that were presented to the Social Security Administration for verification that were invalid. Now, that was 18,000 in 2023. In 2024 to date, there have been almost 75,000 of these transactions, and 86% of those are non-matches. So the concern is that these numbers of non-matches indicate that many persons are trying to register to vote using fictitious Social Security numbers. And I provide a link to you that provides some background information. This concern about non-citizens registering to vote has been broached on a myriad of platforms in recent months. So in the June meeting, I asked what steps could be taken. I was told that the applicant signing the application under penalty of perjury was sufficient. But I still would like to know if there's anything under the purview of this board that could be done to ensure that my vote is not canceled by an ineligible voter. That's the extent of my comments.
Thank you, Mr. Fletcher. I have a few thoughts that I wanted to share, and then I'm sure there may be other board members who do, and if they would like. The first is that you have made a number of statements about your expectations or concerns about who may be applying for benefits or who may be registering to vote. And I guess my question for you is, do you have any data to support the idea that non-citizens are applying in larger numbers for social benefits or driver's licenses or anything along those lines? Or are you merely saying that is a concern? I've definitely heard the concern. But I'm just curious as to whether when you say, with the large number of non-citizens applying for services, you're concerned that corners may be cut. Since you know us, I'm pretty sure you're not saying that we're the ones that you think are cutting corners.
No, sir.
And thank you for that. But do you have any? And I understand the concern. We don't want corners cut in the election process really anywhere. But do you have any specific data about that particular problem, or is it at this point a concern that it could happen?
It's mainly a concern that it could happen. I have I probably don't have the ability to extract that information from the federal agencies. It probably would take many years and many Public Information Act requests to get there. But the number of these transactions that don't match seems to be correlated with the number of people who are coming into the country who are non-citizens.
What makes you say that that's a correlation? Because I see a lot of first of all, we had, it looks like 4 times as many transactions in 2024 than we had in 2023. And I'm not aware of data that says that we had 4 times as many non-citizens in Maryland in 2024 as 2023. I'll tell you my interpretation of that data. 2024 being an election year, 2024 being a year in which voter registration drives are taking place all over the place, where we have same-day registration, where we have voter registration, where the political parties are doing voter registration, where, I think the total number of transactions I would expect the total number of transactions to drastically increase in any even-numbered year, and particularly in a presidential year. Now, the non-match percentage is a different question, obviously, but in terms of the volume of requests, I would automatically expect 2024 to be much higher. But I wouldn't necessarily believe that the much higher, or even the non-matches, is automatically voters trying to use fictitious Social Security numbers. It could be mistakes. It could be problems in the system. It could be, I mean, I can tell you from my own experience that I've had occasion having nothing to do with elections to look up Social Security numbers for family members that I know are correct and have been told that they're wrong. So what do I do in that situation? I do it again, because I assume that the mistake was mine. So I guess I'm just trying to get a sense as to, I mean, I agree with you that it's certainly possible that one of the reasons for the larger number of non-matches is that there are, that there's something going on that we need to pay attention to. But I did want to get a sense from you as to, do we know this, or are we're just surmising that this is a possibility?
Well, I don't have any evidence to prove it. And in fact, I would say that the fact that the Social Security Administration is rejecting these numbers is a good thing. If they are in fact
Exactly.
fictitious numbers, they're being rejected. Yes.
Right. I mean, if they are in fact ineligible, they should be rejected. If they are in fact eligible, then we have a different problem that we also want to solve. Because we want this system to distinguish between the eligible and the ineligible.
Correct.
So, okay, well, that's great to hear that we're roughly in the same place on that. And then the only other thing I was going to add before I turn it over to others is I think that the way that you've described our reaction at the June Board of Elections meeting is subject to misinterpretation. And let me give you my interpretation. And it was nice that we got your statement in advance. So I had an opportunity yesterday to re-listen to the June meeting, because my recollection of that meeting was different than what you had, or at least what I interpreted from what you had written. Let me make a distinction between the anyone at this table saying what the law requires and doesn't require, and anyone at this table saying that they agree or disagree with that requirement. We have at least one member of our board who I know, who's sitting to my left, who disagrees with the state law on this question. Okay. When I said sitting to my left, that was not a political statement. She's literally sitting to my left, and that would be Diane. But I didn't express an opinion at the June meeting, and I'm not sure that any of us did, other than Diane, as to whether we think that the signing of the application under penalty of perjury was sufficient as a matter of policy. It is sufficient as a matter of law, as in Kevin told us at that meeting, our attorney, that that's what the law relies upon in the state of Maryland. But I would want to know more. First of all, it's not my decision, obviously, as to whether that happens. We as board members would have opinions about that. My goal would be to have systems that, again, would not have the effect of removing people from voting who are in fact eligible. I have no problem with not allowing people to vote who are not eligible. And I would want to have a system that makes that distinction. I personally have seen very little proof that this is a major problem in the state of Maryland. There have been 3 federal cases in 12 years of non-citizens voting in the state of Maryland. I mean, cases that were, brought and convicted. This is since 2012. That's according to the Heritage Foundation's. They have like a map on their website with, with information. There've been other forms of voter fraud. We don't have to go into that discussion here. I would want to know more about that before I would require something else, because I can tell you that my mother's an immigrant to this country who immigrated in the 1940s. When she had to get her real ID, she never got her real ID from the Motor Vehicle Administration. And the reason why she never got her real ID from the Motor Vehicle Administration is that I cannot find anywhere her naturalization certificate. Now, if it were her vote, I'd be furious. My 95-year-old mother does not need to be driving around town. But I will say that, you know, we don't want to create requirements for people that prevent eligible people. Obviously, a naturalized citizen is an eligible voter. We don't want to create a situation where those people who are eligible are, for bureaucratic reasons, prevented from voting. Now, if someone's a non-citizen and they attempt to vote, I am perfectly comfortable with not only rejecting their registration, but referring them to the state prosecutor if that's appropriate, if it wasn't done by accident. I would say that most of the non-citizens that I'm familiar with are so afraid of the possibility of being deported or having to leave the country or not being able to become citizens that they are very unlikely to attempt to register to vote. That's at least my experience. They are not making the effort to, you know, they are, it is not worth it to them to put themselves on the line in that fashion. At least that's my, that's my surmise. So anyway, I know Daniel has his hand up. I've been monopolizing the conversation, and I'm sure Diane has something to say. Okay.
Your hand up first.
Okay, we will go to Daniel. I will, now that I monopolized all the time, I will remind my colleagues that we do have a remaining agenda, but obviously everyone should take the opportunity if they want to speak to this subject. Go ahead, Daniel.
Thank you, Mr. President. And I'll be brief. Again, Mr. Fletcher, as you know how much we appreciate your engagement and always coming to the board meetings. I would just want to be very clear as someone who is an immigrant and someone who have actually gone through the process, right? That it's not only personal, but I know that there are many residents of Montgomery County who are non-citizens, who clearly do take the, in terms of the whole process of becoming a citizen very seriously, but also they take it, they handle it with care, knowing that any factor that may impede the ability to become a US citizen is one that they would not jeopardize at all, or they would not even go very close to it. Now, there are exceptions. I'm not going to speak for all immigrants. It just happened to be that I'm from Sierra Leone, West Africa. The other immigrants from different parts of the world who have immigrated to America. My experience is that obviously I was interested in democracy because that's something, it's part of the path in which that brought me, and not only me, but my entire family, because of the civil war in Sierra Leone, and we became refugees. And when I realized that there's a better way for us to engage with government, I became a US citizen, and guess what? I became a registrar. I started registering people after I becoming a US citizen to say we all need to participate in this. And as I've always said, only in America is some of our story possible. I'm the vice president of the Board of Elections. So I'm not saying this is something that should not be brought up, but I think David, the board president, has actually addressed my first concern, which is the way you describe in your testimony, your current testimony in terms of our June meeting. I believe somebody who was not at that meeting would probably try to read something else into it. So lastly, I just want to make sure that I raise my voice as someone who has gone through this process. It's just like the civic process when I was studying for my US citizenship and realizing that there are actually some born Native Americans who don't even know some of the, some of the questions that are in our civic test that we had to take to become US citizens. I just want you to know that I did handle but my entire family handled very carefully the process of not only becoming a US citizen, but also when we were then eligible as US citizen, we did become, as I say, registered to vote, but then I became a voter registrar so that I can get more people into the process. But thank you for bringing the issue up. I just want to make sure, as I say, that anyone who is watching this, that is, again, a non-US citizen, again, don't do it. Don't register to vote because you're not eligible. And I'm not giving public advice here, but I want to make sure that whoever is listening to this that is a non-US citizen or that may be speaking with an accent like mine, or if the accent doesn't have to be like mine, because I know there are other people from around the United States that have accent, you know, or you may look like me, or you don't have to look like me, but just if you're not a US citizen, don't register to vote. So, Fletcher, I'm making a public announcement because of some of the things that you said during our June meeting, which I believe the way you characterize it, I don't want anybody else to think that, you know, at any place, and I know you're not influencing that this board, the Montgomery County Board of Elections, is encouraging anyone to vote or register to vote if they're non-citizen. I know that's not what you're inferring. So I just want to make sure I'm very clear, because we know you, you know us, and you know how much we value the work that you do. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Karuma.
Thank you, Daniel. Diane.
Thank you. This will be brief. I want to, first of all, embrace what Daniel said, and I applaud him for the effort he expended and all the sentiments about how just valued American citizenship is, and how primary is the ability to vote in our system. And I agree with everything he said, and I am pretty certain Michael Fletcher would also. And I want to thank Mr. Fletcher for his diligence in keeping an eye on this. I did express in the last meeting that I do not think a signing an affidavit when you register that you are a US citizen is sufficient, simply because of all the news reports I read, all the anecdotal evidence there is, and the executive order that the president signed a couple of years ago, which is an affirmative push for federal agencies that administer benefits to proactively register their stakeholders to vote. And I don't take anything away from what anybody has said in this conversation, but just want to underscore, I don't think it is a burden too high for people when they register to give actual proof of citizenship. And I just, again, I applaud Daniel for the efforts. I I think it's a sterling example of the process that anybody new to this country should take. And Michael, again, Mr. Fletcher, thank you for the effort you are putting into this. And thank you.
Ms. Dillon, thank you.
That's it.
Okay, thank you, Diane. Anyone else? I'm sorry. Yeah, Boris, go ahead.
Yeah, just something from another naturalized citizen. You apply to register to vote, you don't verify, you don't register. That's the rule. Straightforward, there is no cutting corners, there is nothing, there are no curves in that statement. Do we receive sometimes social security numbers handwritten that mistyped, digits replaced and stuff like that? Absolutely. Absolutely. So I would not just discard everything. When it comes to this letter, I like to look by myself in everything that comes our way. Mr. Fletcher shared quite a few items in the past. I got to it on Saturday, so I apologize if I didn't have time to look into deeper. I do see that, as David pointed out, in 2023, there were like 4 times less records than in 2024. Yet in 2023, there are 7 single match deceased, but not a single one in 2024. So let's look at this data. It's not just picking up the numbers that are outliers maybe in this process, but looking at it properly and explaining it.
All right, Mr.
Thank you, Boris. Mr. Fletcher, any final words before we move on?
No, I think you've responded. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
I have no further questions, so
Okay,
thank you very
great.
much for
Thank
addressing.
you. Thank you very much for joining us once again. We look forward to seeing you again in the future. Okay, I believe that the next thing on the agenda is the Board Attorney's report. Kevin.
Thank you, David. So I just have two brief items. First, there are two pieces of litigation, the Gibson case for 2020 and another companion case for 2022 that are pending in the United States Court of Appeals for the Fourth Circuit. Normally, the board is able to discard materials from previous elections 22 months after the election occurred. The Attorney General's office has put a hold on the materials related to 2020 and 2022. So we are unfortunately in a holding pattern that Mindy is not happy about, and she reminds me about frequently. But we have no choice but to hold on to that material until the Fourth Circuit has really ruled, and then actually after the Fourth Circuit rules, there'll be a 90-day period to file a petition for writ of certiorari to the Supreme Court. So that material is going to be we're going to have to hold on to it for an extended period of time moving forward. So that's the first thing. The other matter relates to, you received in your packet materials regarding COMAR changes made by the State Board of Elections. One of those changes involved sociological information. The changes that the state board made was to fall into compliance with what's permitted under the Maryland Public Information Act in terms of what personal identifying information can be issued and sent out to individuals. So, for example, if I sent a letter to the Board of Elections saying what a wonderful job the staff did, and I put my address and my telephone number and other identifying information, the regulations provide that that material, my personal identifying information, would need to be redacted. And that's consistent with what's required under the Maryland Public Information Act. The question that you all may get is, how does that affect voter registration lists that candidates, campaigns may ask for, and it doesn't affect that process at all. So those lists remain unaffected. The information that's provided on those lists remains unaffected because that information doesn't fall under the Maryland Public Information Act. It falls under other provisions of state law and federal law. So those lists remain unchanged, but you may receive some questions about it. But the COMAR change that you were provided that was approved in August simply brings the State Board of Elections procedures for allowing the distribution of personal identifying information into conformity with what's permitted under the Maryland Public Information Act. Does anyone have any questions about that? Those are the only two things I had.
Okay, thank you very much, Kevin. Next on the agenda is old business. Is there any old business? Yes, Alex.
There may be old business which might be required to be dispensed with in a confidential meeting. I think there was a confidential voting request.
Yes, that's going to be part of our executive session, which is going to be after the public meeting. But yes, we do have some confidential voter requests to discuss four.
One that was left over.
Yes, I think we have more than one that was left over. We have two that were left over, but yes, those will be discussed in executive session. Any other old business? Okay, the website report, Boris.
Okay, very briefly, once when we started collecting this data, we said we would wait for a couple of months and then start putting them, comparing the trend with the 3 months presented on the list. I think the trend is obvious here. After the primary, we went into slow motion in terms of the number of website visits. We went from 13,000 in June to 60,000 in August because elections are coming. Elections are coming. People are looking for that, how to serve, how to be election judges, how to find their polling place, and etc. There's one, I believe, I might be wrong, but I doubt, a piece of information that will not be here. That I honestly believe that number of people who look for something is even higher. Those emails, when we send them out to over 400,000 people, they had the links that would take voters straight to the state website. And from the top of my head, we are talking about maybe 15 to 20,000 people who follow those links to do something. So you will not see it here, but it worked. So this communication works one way or another. Again, very briefly, the trend is going up as we would expect. We are very pleased to see that most pages visited are for election workers because that's what we need. This is the time to do it.
I'll just say that I'm very impressed that our population is spending the month of August looking at our website when they may be doing it from the beach, but they're definitely checking out our website. So that's a welcome development as far as I'm concerned. Okay, next is the outreach update from Dr. Zelaya. There you go.
Good afternoon. First and foremost, thank you for the opportunity. As you see in the report, we have close to 100. Well, when it was developed, about 175 outreach events between now and early October. Since mid-October, since this went out, we've added more events. Tomorrow is the National Voter Registration Day, so we'll be circulating around the county promoting. It's a national event. It's also Constitution Day and Citizenship Day. So we'll be facilitating access to the franchise by encouraging the public to register to vote, to update their voter registration, ask questions about mail-in voting if they have a desire to request one. The ins and outs of early voting and election day voting and the differences of such two in-person opportunities, and just a desire to recruit more poll workers, and also looking at our Future Vote initiative in which we're actively recruiting. So there's a lot of movements. I want to thank the board also for facilitating several events. Once again, send them our way, and then we will set up the pins and we'll knock them down. So we do thank the public as well for facilitating opportunities to engage the diverse electorate. And then we're also implementing Saturday Service Day, in which we go out into the community at various public libraries on Saturdays. Because we are located up county, we do understand that Poolsville and parts of Tacoma Park and White Oak, so it's a long drive, especially with our beloved traffic. So we will facilitate access to our services by visiting those libraries. So just want to thank everyone in advance and the entire team from VR, IT, recruitments, mail-in operations. It's truly a team effort. Also, there was a request from the board, kind of an overview of the languages spoken in Montgomery County. I will apologize I didn't send this kind of an overview, a summary, kind of like the Cliff Notes version that I put on each of your in front of your desk. Because I looked at the report from the Montgomery County Park and Planning. It was a pretty thick report, and I know that we're crunching on time.
If you could send electronically as well, that would be very helpful.
Perfect.
But great.
Let me see. I think we put it on. I think that one. Yes, that one. So we're gonna share it on the screen.
There, because of problem.
And everyone.
We can now.
Okay.
You may want to go to slideshow. It'll be easier for people to see that, right?
No, so this is a Word.
Oh, it's Word.
It's okay.
Never mind. You just want to scroll down. Yeah, scroll down a bit. Yeah.
I'm scrolling down. So one of the questions proposed by the board members is about limited English speaking households. So this comes from the American Community Survey, the first year estimates from 2003 from the U.S. Census Bureau. These are estimates that are sent to household across Montgomery County, across the nation. This is specific for Montgomery County. As you go down with the languages that were identified in the survey that was sent out, if you look at the kind of the grid, total households in Montgomery County is a little over 392,000. For those that speak only English, as reported by the family members or the head of household, a little over 216,000. For those that speak Spanish, a predominant Spanish household, a little over 63,000. But those with limited English proficiency in that household is about a little over 15,000, for about a fourth, 24% of those households in Montgomery County identify as having limited English proficiency in that household. As you go down the languages, and French, Haitian, Cajun, about give and take 14,000 households. Those that identify themselves as limited English, it's about a little bit 1,300, give and take, for about 9%. German and other West Germanic languages, about 3,200 households. Limited English proficiency, they identified at 0%. Russian, Polish, or other Slavic languages, 6,200. Limited English proficiency, 1,500, for about 11% of those individuals within those households. Other Indo-European languages, Hindi, Bengali, Punjabi, Iranian, etc., about 25,000 households, so about 2,700 as identify themselves, self-identify as limited English speaking households. Let's see, Korean, about 6,200. 1,600 identify themselves as limited English speaking households, for about 27%. Chinese speaking, 16,000 households, about 4,200 identify themselves as limited English, for about 26%. Vietnamese, 3,600, a little over 500 households, for 15%. Tagalog, 5,200, about 531, for about 10%. Other Asian and Pacific languages, 9,300, about 960 identifies limited English proficient, for about 10%. Other Asian languages, 9,300, about 960 as limited English, for about 10%. Arabic, 2,800 and change, about 428 identify as limited English, for about 14%. And other unspecified languages, a little over 20,000. 2,100 give and take, identify themselves as limited English speaking households, for about 10%. This comes from, like I said, the U.S. Census Bureau. And then the other question was asking was the top regions as it pertains to the demographics of the county. For those outside the U.S., El Salvador represent close to 13%, 12.9. India, 7.9. China, excluding Hong Kong and Taiwan, 6.7. Ethiopia, 5.2, Guatemala, 4.7, Peru, 3.9, Philippines, 3%, Vietnam, 2.9, Korea, 2.9, and Honduras, 2.4. And then the other, within that question asked by the board, the top languages spoken at home in Montgomery County, and this is as per Parks Montgomery County demographic off the 2019 American Community Survey from the U.S. Census Bureau. Speak only English, a little over 58%. Spanish.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
So the chart of the top languages spoken at
Mhm.
home, that is coming from 2019. But the table that you gave us on page 1,
Yeah.
that is coming from 2023.
Yeah, I wasn't able to find,
So that's why the numbers don't
Correct.
exactly match.
Correct, yes,
Okay.
correct, yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. So,
All right.
so you can see all the different languages with the breakdown spoken at home. This, and it's on the email, this demographics was provided from the 2019, which, yes, it's about 4 years old, which was provided by Parks and Planning. It's on the email that was sent, and we'll upload it to the board notes. So it's thicker, but it is 4 years dated from the 2003. Once I'm able to obtain the updated one, I definitely will share that, but I couldn't. I didn't.
This is great information, and we really appreciate it. I'm sure we're going to want to have longer discussions about the implications of this information, and once we have time to think about what that means. But this is you saw our frustration in trying to find this information previously, and we appreciate your help in doing that.
And I think, and it's a great question because it also guides our outreach. in the
Exactly.
district. I mean,
Or it should.
yeah, oh, yeah, it does.
It's hard to guide the outreach if the data is not available in an easily usable fashion.
Yeah,
So-
and one of the ones I like to use was I know with the data sets from census is every year or 3 years is using the school system. The school system, I think, is a nice reflection of the community as a whole. Because it tracks the students in the school system and the way the feeder schools operate from elementary to middle to
But it
high.
leaves out private
Yeah,
schools.
it does.
Yeah.
It gives a nice snapshot.
Yeah.
We look at
Yeah.
about, 160,000 students in the public school
Yes.
system. But most of them gives a snapshot, not the full picture.
Yes. I think there were some questions over here. Are you done?
Yeah.
Okay, Alex and Diane.
Dr. Z, how is limited English speaking household, how is that defined?
Good question. I left that out. I apologize, but I could share that with you at the next time.
And then, under Russian, Polish, and other Slavic languages, are you sure in the right-hand column, that should be 88.64% instead of 18.64%?
Yeah, I think it is.
Almost
Yeah.
certainly.
Okay.
Yeah, you're correct.
Thank you.
As Doris knows.
My math.
Numbers, how I. Unbeknownst.
It's okay, you gave us enough other data. to
I got one
figure it
wrong,
out.
almost made it.
Yeah.
So close,
you-
so
you-
close.
yeah.
So close.
We'll just keep that in mind if you ever owe us money.
That's what.
Yeah.
you do.
Diane, did you have a question?
Yes, thank you. And thank you for that excellent presentation. And yes, indeed, this is very compelling data. And I hope I'm not stepping on a landmine, but it is the U.S. Census Bureau, and I know that it had been adjudicated and decided that there would not be a distinction between U.S. citizens and non-citizens in the census. And I think premised by the idea that, not the idea, but I think very wise planning that this can be helpful in our outreach. And how do you factor in that we don't want, do we want to outreach to people who are not US citizens? How do you work the breakdown?
So years ago, I remember when I first joined the board, one of the concerns at that time of the board was working with organizations that probably service non-US citizens. My background is prevention. And one of the things that I looked at,
Prevention.
public health, prevention, that was my former career. The rationale doing engagement across the county, number one, is not only to ensure those individuals that meet the requirements to, number one, register to vote,
Mhm.
right, which is now it's 16. When I started, it was 18. So that lowered the individuals, providing them the guidelines to vote 3 ways. Was when I joined, it was you have an excuse. It was called absentee
Mhm.
and election day. Now we have no excuse mail-in. They changed the name from absentee to mail-in. We went from 5 early voting centers to 14. And we also expanded the days and hours. Now we have 8 from 7 to 8, and then we have the polling place. So working with organizations, number one, similar to Future Vote, is to educate the electorate about voting in Maryland, the legal requirements, the expectations, number one, to register to vote, U.S. citizenship, at least 16 years of age, and live in Maryland. And we have cities within Montgomery County, Tacoma Park, that allows individuals who reside in Tacoma Park to register and vote in their Tacoma Park city elections. So it's critical that we do outreach to educate those individuals when they flex our institution during the even years, whether it's a midterm or presidential, that they understand clearly you have to be a US born citizen like myself or a naturalized citizen like my mother, that there are requirements and they have to be followed. And so doing outreach is important because we cannot gauge as X individual will become a naturalized citizen in 3 or 5 years. And when they do, then they know how to leverage the institution because now they know what it takes to successfully vote in Maryland. So by giving them the information, the tools, eventually, when they do meet the requirements, then they could flex it. Similar to Future Vote. Why do we bring in students as young as 6th grade? It's a visceral observation of participatory democracy. Yes, they're too young to register to vote. But once they cross that threshold, we encourage them to register to vote and also to serve as poll workers. And you've seen the measurements. We have one of the youngest poll worker force in America for a large jurisdiction. Our average age falls between 50 and 52. That's a benefit because these students, when they start Future Vote, say in 6th grade, like my son, of course, they have no interest in voting. But once they're 16, they understand that, number one, I could serve, I meet the legal requirements to do so and to register, and also to make some money, right? Because you're 16 is an opportunity to gas a salary stipend. And then now my son Sebastian is voting by mail from his university dorm because he's a freshman. So working in tandem to educate the electorate, I think is beneficial to us.
So when you say electorate,
The institution,
doesn't
Montgomery
matter if
County,
you're a
our residents.
citizen or not.
Yeah, I don't see the difficulty or the challenge or the problem of teaching and educating someone who is not a US citizen or too young to enter, right, to become a registered voter, to teach them about the ways of how we vote in Maryland, but specifically what are the legal requirements to do so. You have to be a US born citizen or a naturalized citizen, and there's a whole process that was discussed here. Another thing is important under section 203 that we educate our public, our residents, right, without saying registered voters or citizens, is that everything is in English and Spanish. And individuals have this misunderstanding that I thought to vote in the US, you have to speak the Queen's English. There's some caveats to that. If you're 50 years of age and you've been living in the US as a legal resident for 20 years, you could bypass the English requirement to take the exam or the interview for your naturalization. So my grandmother, when she was alive, she became a naturalized citizen at 75, and she took her interview in Spanish. If you're 55 years of age, and you've been living in the US as a legal resident for 15 years, you could also bypass the English civics requirement, but not the interview or the exam. You still have to take it, but you could take it in your native language. And the premise of section 203 falls under the premise of the Articles of Confederation, which predates the Constitution and Bill of Rights. At the founding of our country, we were wanting to go to war against the king across the pond, right? And to do that, you have to have militia. So the Articles of Confederation were actually translated into German and French to educate the public within the 13 colonies. So I think it behooves us to educate our residents about the process, but more importantly, that they know you got to be a citizen, US born, like myself, or like my mom, a US naturalized citizen. Otherwise, you should not enter the institution, or you do not have the right to vote.
All right, thank you.
I'll just comment that, first of all, thank you for the history lesson, which I was not aware about the Articles of Confederation. It's not something that we learn about too often. So that was good. I do want to dispute just one thing you said when you said that 6th graders have no interest in voting. I think they have strong interest in voting, but they have an interest in doing it as soon as they can, and they can vote for a student member of the Board of Education. I really like the idea that our outreach, as long as we make clear to people what the requirements are, whether it's age, whether it's citizenship, whether it's residence, whatever the requirements are, I think we're giving people something to strive for. If you are a legal resident in Montgomery County and you're figuring out what difference does it make to be a citizen, one of the differences is that you get to vote in federal elections. And I think it's important also for the reason you said about Tacoma Park elections to distinguish between what they do and what we do, and basically important for everyone to understand what the rules are, because I think that it's in everyone's interest to know what they are. So I very much appreciate that. I do think that there's, definitely the possibility that our outreach efforts may reach people who are not eligible to vote, be an election judge, et cetera, just like some of our media advertising goes to DC and Virginia. I mean, although that's direct, So anyway, I really appreciate the information. I think it's going to be useful. I think in terms of how we use it, there's a lot of ideas that I'm sure we'll all have. And when you have time, I'm sure you also have a bunch, because I know you have a lot going on right now. So.
Just clarification, you had mentioned that you wisely and appropriately amplify the message that you have to be a US citizen to vote. And what sort of documentation do you use when they register to vote?
The Maryland voter registration application. And then that's why.
And what sort of, I'm sorry, documentation to prove citizenship?
So we-
what the law requires.
Yeah, what the law, what the law
Right,
requires.
and that is
There's-
sign the affidavit.
Yeah, you know what that is.
Yeah.
Okay,
There's
just wanted to-
there's a
That's
voter
it.
registration application and there's a affidavit you affirm that,
Okay, I just wanted to underscore that it's the level of certification.
Let me suggest that if we're gonna underscore what the law requires, let's direct that question to Kevin. Because Hilberto did not write this law.
I know, and I'm not
Yeah.
trying to,
Oh,
I am
no,
not
no.
trying to fight with anybody over any of this.
Right,
No, we definitely follow the
Okay.
rules and regulations as.
right, okay,
Thanks.
Forrest.
This is not the first time that we had a conversation about citizenship and non-citizens voting in the local elections. And I believe that it's, again, very important to remind everyone, the voter rolls that we have US citizens on them. Non-citizens that vote in local elections, those lists are maintained by the localities where those elections are taking place. Completely different processes. We have nothing, we are not mandated, we have authority to implement local elections.
Yes.
Whom they let to vote, it's their decision.
There is no one on our voter registry, to our knowledge, who is a non-citizen, because they're required to be citizens to be on our voter registry. The cities that have different rules, they have their own, I believe they call it their supplemental voter registry, which is their residents who are not on our voter registry, but are still able to, but they are different lists. Thank you very much, Hilberto, for a very illuminating presentation. And for all this good data. Let's move on to the next item on the agenda, which is new business. The chair will entertain a motion to authorize the election director and the acting deputy election director, IT manager. Janet, your title is way too long. Oh, and training. I'm sorry, I was just reading the agenda. Anyway, to sign the scanning reports during canvass for the 2024 general election.
I so move.
Okay, it's been moved by Diane. Is there a second? Seconded by Daniel. Any discussion? Okay, I'll just go down around the table. Alex?
Do I get to vote?
Oh, you're right. You do not. Sorry.
Not trying to vote in.
Wait.
No,
That was
Oh,
good.
wait, I'm confused. He's not here.
No, Ami is,
Oh, Ami's there.
but you
my
know what? Ami is no longer there. So Alex, you do get to vote.
That's
And
why I didn't
of course, I knew that all along.
Well, And I just,
So,
I just lucked in it.
yeah, let's go back and we're gonna pretend that I knew this all along. Alex.
Aye.
Diane.
Aye.
Daniel.
Aye.
Mark. Keena is not on, to my knowledge. I do not, I don't see her. Okay, and I vote aye. This is not our most controversial motion, so, but anyway, it is unanimous. You were given that authority. Is there any other new business? Okay, seeing no other new business, we have our list of future action items. The only one that I remember, because it was only a few minutes ago, was I asked Hilberto to make sure that we get this in the electronic form in addition to the paper form. Were there any other future action items from this meeting? Does anybody remember any that we want to put on the list? This is not something we're going to discuss now, but I'll just point out well, we'll get to, I'll get to that when we get to future meetings. We have a future meeting that is scheduled on the same day as a Canvas Day. We have to figure out what we're gonna do with that. Because we may need the Canvas Day more than we need the future meeting, but we may need to do both. So anyway, okay, any other new business? Seeing none, no other new business, no future actions, approval of the minutes. I believe the most recent version of the minutes, I sent comments on Ami's comments. That was the last version that I saw. Did anybody have any additional comments after that? Okay, then the chair will entertain a motion on the minutes.
Mr. President, I move that we approve the minute as amended by you.
Okay, I'll interpret that to mean as amended by me and Ami.
And Ami, yes.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Okay, Alex,
Aye.
Diane,
Aye.
Daniel,
Aye.
Marchie, and I vote aye. Okay, future meetings. The next time that we are going to meet as a group is the Board of Canvassers meeting on Tuesday, October 15th at 10 o'clock a.m. at Montgomery College, Germantown. That will be the start of the mail-in ballot canvass. At the moment, I'm expecting, everyone has said that they I believe that they plan to attend that day. If that changes, let me know, but as long as we have a quorum, you know, the law requires it, so we need to have a quorum. So if anyone has problems with attending on that day, please let me know. We do have our normal Monday meeting time. We have a Canvas Day scheduled on that day. I think Boris and I should probably have a conversation to see whether we want to have a partial Canvas Day and a partial meeting day, or how we'll handle that. I'm not sure that we want to not have an October meeting with a November election, but we'll cross that bridge when I say not have an October meeting, I just mean an October business meeting, because we'll have a Canvas meeting that day in any event. If nothing else for the good of the order, the public meeting is adjourned, and I will declare a 5-minute recess until we have the executive session. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
We're not gonna be using these again, right?